All right then, so in this video now we are going to learn about the lambda expressions. So how to use the lambda expressions in C++. So basically lambda expressions in C++ provide a concise way to define anonymous function, also known as the lambda functions or closures, right? So directly in your code. They are particularly useful in the scenarios when you need a short or one-off functions without need a formally define a function or a separate function. Okay, lambda expressions support functionally programming concepts, allowing you to use the functions as a first-class citizens. Right? Let's see how to define a lambda function. Like it's a simply like lambda functions is nothing but it's like a shorthand function, something like that, right? So how to define the syntax? So here you need to use this capture and you need to use this parameters and you need to use the return type and you need to type your function body inside here, the function body data here. This is the syntax of your a lambda function. So basically the capture, this is the place, this place. So it allows you to capture the variables from the surrounding scope. So if this is an empty scope, if you're creating something like this, that's an empty scope. And if you're creating something like this, and that's capture all variables by references, which is capturing all variables by the references. All right, so which means it will capture all the variables by reference. This will capture all the variables by references. And if you are trying to use this equal sign, this will capture the variables by values. Capture all the variables by values instead of references, right? So if you want to go for very specific variables, so you can supply the variable 1 or variable 2. This will capture only that specific variable. Capture a specific variable, right? That's the lambda function's scope of it. And the parameters are nothing but just like as usual, the functional parameter and the return type is just like the same. No changes in that. This is the explanations about the syntax. So now let's go for the a simple example, right? So here hash include IO stream and hash include vector and hash include algorithm. These are the packages that we are going, header files are that we are going to use. And int main, let's open it, and inside here, so first example, lambda functions without parameter. We are going to write a lambda functions without parameters. So I'm going to write auto greet equals to a function without parameter function and open the body of it, right? So here I'm going to use cout, and of course we need to use using namespace std. All right, so cout, and this is supposed to be the end line. So here inside here greeting, I'm just going to say hello lambda, something like this, right? This is the greet. And right after this int main, what I'm going to do, I'm going to call that specific lambda function greet, right? I'm going to call that specific lambda function greet. All right, done. So this need to be finished over here. All right, that's the lambda function which we have created, and we are calling that lambda function. If it is a lambda function, you can see the symbol L in between it, in the front of it, right? And the second example over here, what I'm going to do, lambda function with parameter, right? So just like the same way, auto, and I'm going to say add equals to and here we are going to supply the parameters. So just like the same way how we supply the parameter here, int a comma int b, then open the function, add the semicolon at the end and return a plus b. Okay, this is that lambda function, and now I'm going to store this into sum equals to add of 5 comma 5 semicolon. Now we got the result in that thing. All right, so right after here what I'm going to do is I'm going to print the result of it. So sum colon equals to result over here, sum, then we are going to display the end line semicolon. All right, so right after this one we are going to have the third example, which is going to be the lambda with the capture clause. Lambda, oops, m is missing, lambda function with capture clause. This is the thing. So I'm going to have int x equals to 10 and int y equals to 5. All right, so I'm going to multiply, auto multiply, which is equals to x comma ampersand y. Right, we are passing it as a reference. Keep it in mind, we are passing it as a reference. If you are using this one, we are passing a specific variable. In that one specific variable we are using ampersand, which is a reference, a variable with reference, which is a reference. And this it's going to be a function, and inside this function it's going to be an int. All right, this function is going to return an int, and of course here also I'm missing because here we are returning it. So here you need to send a return statement, return data type, return what we are returning. We are returning an integer type. I missed that one. So here we are returning an integer data type. Okay, so inside here now what I'm going to do, return x star y semicolon, and here also semicolon. This is all about the multiply, and int product equals to multiply of x comma y. That's the thing we have to send it inside. What we need to do, so we have to multiply, and we don't need to send the x comma y here because it's already passed over here. All right, so that's the thing, and at the end I'm just going to say cout multiply colon. Right after here I'm going to get that product over here, product and the end line semicolon. Okay, and at the so now we are going to use the lambda functions in algorithm. This is these, let's make sure all these things are working perfectly fine so far. Return 0 semicolon, save these changes and hit the start. Build successfully. So first lambda functions without parameter, it's been created and it's saying hello lambda, and the second function lambda function with the parameter, it's been created by the time when you are calling and passing the value as 5 comma 5, and it's been calculated and the result has been displayed over here as 10. And now we are trying to multiply the 50, and we are having the 10 and we are having the 5, and I'm passing this variable directly, and I'm passing one variable reference over here, and I'm returning an integer. So it's returning the calculations. 10 into 5, what? We are getting the product as 50. So it's calculating and it's been printed over here. And now we are going to use the vector and algorithm package over here because we are going to using lambda in algorithm. Okay, so I'm going to use this vector and I'm going to return an int equals to numbers equals to, and I'm going to create the numbers over here, which is going to be 1 2 3 4 5 and a class semicolon. Right, int threshold, it's going to be, I'm defining the value as 3. Now count the elements which is greater than threshold. So I need to find out, I need to count the element, whatever, how many elements which is greater than this threshold value. That's what we are trying to do over here, right? So what we are trying to do over here, count the element greater than the threshold using lambda. Using lambda we are trying to count it. So int count equals to I'm going to use count underscore f Okay, that's a vector function, and I need to supply that numbers dot begin using the begin method, comma, then numbers dot end, comma. So here we need to supply the threshold, so it's going to be this array bracket, send the threshold, and that is going to be get the single number from the threshold array. We are going to get the single number. Okay, countif threshold, and right after here we are going to open a function, and here you need to use the semicolon. Okay, and inside this over here, now I'm going to return a number which is greater than a threshold. So basically what we are doing, we are giving the starting and ending point of this number, and we are using the threshold, and we are getting one by one integer, and we are trying to convert that that the threshold, when we are trying to compare that threshold, if the number is greater than threshold value or not. If it is greater, that will be counting and storing it in the integer, right? So int count, yes. Is there any mistakes over here? Implicit conversion loss integer precision. It's showing an error over here. Vector int numbers. Okay, it's just a warning. And let's see. Let's check it out. What's happening? Count of numbers greater than threshold and here you need to get the count semicolon. All right, so I think this is pretty much enough. Save changes and let's check it out. What do we got? Here we go. See, count of the numbers is greater than 3 is 2. You can check it out. How many numbers are greater than 3? It's 2. So this is how you can write a simple lambda functions by using this vector algorithm, and along with the simple lambda functions for your own customized purpose, right? So now let's move on to the next concept.